Good morning. It's the 21st of September, 1998. For the International Cinematographers Guild's Heritage Series, we're here today with that distinguished director of photography, Mr. Roger Deakins, ASC, BSc. Hello, Roger. How are you?
All right. Good. Thank you.
Lovely of you to have us over to your place.
Pleasure.
And right behind us, in the next door over, they're building your new house. So we're going to hear a lot of...
We hope we're going to hear a lot of bumps and crashes. It means something's happening, yeah.
Well, that's better than the slowness that the construction sometimes
Exactly.
Good. So we'll hear that on occasion. But what this is about today is our heritage interview with you, and I'm sure we'll have a great time. So what we usually start off with is a little bit of personal history. Where are you from, Roger?
I'm from Torquay, Devon, England.
Torquay, Devon?
Torquay, which is about 250 miles southwest of London.
Southwest of London?
Yeah,
right.
out in the rural areas of England.
Going towards the west into Bristol?
Yeah, southwest. It's south of Bristol, nearer Plymouth.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And did you? How did you become interested? Well, first of all, where'd you go to school? That's always interesting.
I went to school local school in Devon, and I never left the county until I was about 18. I went to art college, and then I went as far as the next county over, which was in Bath in Wiltshire. I went to art college.
Well, is the English system comparable to what we have here, grade school, high school, or is it, very...
Well, we had kind of grammar school. I went to grammar school till I was 18, and at 18 you go to college. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to study art, basically. I wanted to be a painter.
Painting?
So but I kind of wanted to get to university and have some academic studies as well. But then I veered course and went to art college because they seemed to have a better course for what I was thinking of in terms of painting and art.
Wow. So the disciplines that you studied were the masters, the art world of Rembrandts and
Well, yeah, it was a little bit less formal than that, really. Mm-hmm. It was the 60s and 70s.
So a little more informal. So it was more pop art and.
Well, yeah, we had a great cross section. I mean, actually, I ended up doing a graphic design course, which I didn't really fit into too well, and it's kind of where I discovered photography. So
this was while you were still in like you were 17, 18?
When I was about 18, 19 at art college, yeah.
So you started doing photography then?
Yeah. I guess all the painting I'd done was very, very realist kind of painting. And photography seemed a natural extension. And we had one tutor there, a guy called Roger Main, who's top English photographer, one of the early photojournalists, really. And he really, I guess, he turned me on to photography.
Well, that's great for him to do, and lovely for us because it seems to have worked out pretty good. But this was still photography. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really see any connection, any way I could be involved in the filmmaking world. I mean, I was crazy about movies since I was a kid. I mean, I walk 5 miles, to go and see a movie. But I was in film societies and film clubs and this, that, and the other. But I didn't really see any realistic possibility of, getting into the film industry to earn a living or make it a career.
So you were a fan, and you had been watching movies, and so you were very aware of the systems then.
Yeah.
But then you.
But at that time, I'd not really even been in London. I hardly been out of the county, so it was like, I mean, it was. Impossibility, really. Didn't even come into my mind,
So what changed? What happened?
I started doing photography, and I got really turned on by photography. And then a friend of mine had heard about the National Film School in England, which was just opening. It was just opening the year I left art college. And
what year would this have been?
I guess that. Oh my God.
Well, we're
74 or 5, something like
74 or 5, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And was it? No, it was earlier than that. Tell a lie. 72 or 3, because I left film school in 75, I think. Yeah. So I applied to the film school because I thought, oh well, that's an idea. We never know. And I didn't get in the first year, but at the interview they said, well, be sure to apply again in a year's time. And for a year, I did stills photography professionally.
Oh, you did?
And then I reapplied to the film school, and I got in.
Well, being professional, that meant weddings and
no, I did.
Still photography?
I got commissioned by an art centre in Devon to record country life.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. Actually, there's still a photographer there now. I mean, this is like 15, 20 years ago. Still doing the same thing that I started, which was basically a magazine, an ongoing project, recording country life in North Devon.
And this was principally black and white, or were you into color? Or?
Yeah, no, all black and white. I set up my own little darkroom there, and I got paid a kind of a minimum wage, but all the paper I could print on, that's sort of all the film I could shoot.
That's great.
So it was great. I went round all the little rural towns and villages in North Devon, photographing farmers and fairs and hunts and hunt balls and all the different things that happen in country life.
And then would you follow through the development and printing yourself?
Yeah, I printed it all myself, and then what I did, I had a kind of traveling exhibition. What I'd do is take like the village post office shop window, or a local shops, anybody that would let me.
Sure.
I'd take over their shop window and put in a little exhibition of photographs. And it was great because all the local people would come and say, "Oh, I saw that's so and so, and that's so and so," and they'd all recognise themselves and each other, and where the photograph was taken and stuff. It became a really quite an interesting community kind of project,
Well, it sounds like it was very popular.
Yeah, it was. Now, I'd say that it's been carried on ever since. I believe it's still going strong.
So this gave you grounding, is what I'm looking for, to do your motion picture photography as you got into film school. You knew about lenses and f-stops, and you knew about development and contrast ranges, and all those things are common to film still work, right? Correct? Right.
And at our college, we had different photographic tutors that would teach us how to do still lives and fashion photography and more technical stuff. It wasn't just sort of photojournalism. So
it's a good leg up to get your groundwork down at that time.
I thought it was invaluable, really.
Sure. And then the tools you used, was it 35 millimeter also?
Yeah.
I mean, so you didn't use the larger formats?
I'd use 4x5 and 2 1/4 and stuff, but I'd like 35 millimeter just because the kind of work I like to do was sort of very realistic stuff, so small camera, kind of getting to know people, being unobtrusive,
So when you took the test a second time, you were already well on the way to a professional career.
Yeah, well, it wasn't kind of a test to get into this place. It was the people that became students at the film school there were from such diverse fields. There was even a photographer, Magnum, the big news organisation, Magnum Press. There were people from all kind of walks of life, and they just felt that I needed some professional experience before being accepted to study film, So that was it.
And having accomplished that, you were able to go back to them, and you went and got into this National Film School.
Yeah.
What a lucky break for you.
It was, it was very lucky,
We have nothing comparable to that in this country in terms of a national film school. Was it sponsored by the government, and this was a...
Well, it's actually financed by the independent television companies. It was set up by the government, by the last Labour government, the only recent Labour government. And it's been carried on, luckily, by sponsorship from the independent television companies.
Perfect. And in your studies, then, you spent several years there. You studied motion picture photography. They got you right into the stream of that. Is that
3 years. I went there. Really, I wanted to do documentaries. I mean, that's really why I got into film. Say my photography was very much photojournalistic, and I saw. Documentaries is the natural extension of it, really. So when I went to film school, that's the majority of the work I did early on. Was doing documentaries.
So a documentary would be how a farmer works, or how a candle maker. I mean, what sorts of things was it?
Well, I did early on. I did a film about the stag hunting in North Devon because I'd got to know the people when I was doing that as a photographer, So I did that, and then we went on with different people. We did a community project down in the East End of London about a park development within a housing project in the East End of London. Different things like that.
So the themes that you picked up on were very much like what your still photography was.
Kind of very community-based sort of real-world things. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how to tell a story photographically. In motion too.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's always what we need to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what started it at the film school. Did you go into more narrative storytelling with scripts that were away from documentary?
Well, yeah. I mean, what happened at the film school is because other students had seen the documentaries I'd shot. Then they asked me to shoot their dramatic pieces. So then I became a cameraman for other people as well as being a documentary filmmaker.
So there must have been a very creative group then you teamed up with. It was the first year of it. It was sponsored by the television system and the government. So did you make contacts and people that were
not
going
really?
places?
I mean, not outside of the film school. We worked basically. It was quite a closed community in many ways. Mm-hmm. It was kind of good because it was very free. It was kind of anarchic. If people had ideas to make a film, we were given the facilities to do that film, and total freedom. And that's it. You go off and do it. So it was kind of nice because you learnt by making your own mistakes, and there wasn't the pressure of the professional world. Mm-hmm. So I think there was a lot of creative freedom. It was a really good.
And it was also classwork. I mean, was there a bit of study?
Really. Not really.
Oh.
There was a little bit film history, which, consisted of, twice a week we'd get around and watch different movies that people had suggested, or a particular lecturer was going to talk about. But there was no real formal structured course. It was very much, if you've got a film and that's what you want to do, and you can convince your tutors that that's a good idea, then you just went off and did it, basically.
Wow.
Lucky. I mean, I took a friend who did sound, and I went off and did this documentary about this stag hunt. We just sort of took off for sort of 8 weeks and made this film. It was that was simple as that. I mean,
Well, but you could make your mistakes as well as your achievements in private.
That's it. I mean, it wasn't so much pressure as there is, outside.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a good creative time, really.
So you went to that for three and a half years.
Yeah.
And got out at about, what you said, 70?
About 75, 76.
75, 76. Mm. And what happened then?
Well, then really, I looked for work as an assistant because I was told that's what I should do, and I couldn't get any work as an assistant, so I decided to look for work as a cameraman. So
as a director of photography.
Well, yeah, I was doing documentaries, really, and then I got work doing documentaries.
Where'd you find work?
Simple as that. Well, some of it. The first job I had came from a fellow student who was doing a film in Africa for the ANC, and they were basically making a film about the war in Rhodesia, and they wanted to go into Rhodesia. They wanted somebody to go into Rhodesia and film what life was like under Ian Smith's regime. Mm-hmm. And basically, I went off with a sound recordist, and we went to Salisbury, and which is now Harare, but Salisbury as it was then, to meet a journalist. The journalist had been thrown out of the country by the regime, so the person we were expecting to meet wasn't there. So we tied up with another journalist, an Australian, called Bruce Palling, and basically he took us, and we travelled around the country interviewing people about torture and their experiences.
So this was not pro-government, this particular one?
It was certainly not. We went in under the guise of making a tourist film, and of course then they found us. For instance, we were found on the border with Mozambique one day in this mission station up in the hills, and it's hardly a place you would go to make a tourist film. So basically we managed to get sort of a couple of weeks filming before they arrested us. And
they arrested you?
Yeah.
Well, they had a reputation for being not very nice to the people they arrested.
Well, yeah, they were we managed to sweet talk our way out of it, and eventually they just threw us out of the country. So we actually caught a train, went into Botswana, and then continued to filming, going around the refugee camps and basically interviewing people about their experiences, but in Botswana as opposed to inside Rhodesia.
So this movie came back and you finished it. Was edited and was it released then?
Yeah, it came out. Came out as a BBC Horizon program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you got recognition from that too?
Well, I was the cameraman. I wasn't the director. The director actually couldn't go to Rhodesia because she was banned in the country, and she met us in Botswana, and we finished the filming there. You know. So I kind of started off doing a few films like that. You know.
Well, the point is that you got some recognition for it, and you became
known
as
director
of photography.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of got a reputation for doing a few films that other people didn't really want to do, I suppose.
Well, risky business. I mean, going off. I mean, that's quite an assignment for. You were in your mid-20s by this point.
Yeah.
And, this is, really early on in anyone's career to get that kind of an assignment.
Yeah.
And as a documentary assignment.
Right. And that led to then about a year later, I heard that a television company was looking for somebody to go on the round the world yacht race, to make a film about the round the world yacht race. So being from Devon, but on the coast, rural England, where a lot of the English, sailors used to come from, Raleigh and all those, Drake and a lot. So I went along to the producers and said, I'm your man. I've spent all my life sailing and stuff.
And had you?
No, I'd been on a yacht once and been very, very seasick. But I saw this as sort of such a great opportunity.
Sure.
That I got the job. So then off I went for about a year I spent doing that project.
And was that traveling with the yacht?
Yeah, I had to learn
ship?
to sail. No. We were actually on the same yacht. I had to learn to sail. I had to do the function as a crew member as well as make the film as well. There was two of us and a sound recordist who also had to. We both had to crew the yacht. And,
so you had to bring aboard all your film stock and all your audio stock because you weren't going to get replenished anyplace.
Well, the race stops at Cape Town and Auckland and Rio.
Oh, so you were able to replenish.
In those days it did. So each leg was about 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Mm-hmm. Now it's a totally different race. They stop, I think, a dozen times. But then that's quite a long period to be at sea, 8 or 9 weeks and you take, as you say, all the film you need and all the supplies you need to make the film. Yeah, that was quite a challenge.
Wow. So as going by yourself then, you were, as well as the director of photography for this documentary, you were self-directed, is it?
Yeah, I was kind of the director. I mean, they called me then, in those days, they called me an assignment cameraman.
Assignment cameraman?
Which was a way because they couldn't really say I was a director because the union wouldn't allow the cameraman to be the director unless it was I don't know, I don't know what happened. But I was never named the director, but I certainly was directing the shooting of the film. I did a few films like that.
So unions in England at the time, were they strong? Were they?
Yeah, the unions were very strong then. I mean, it was good too. I mean, it was very protective. That was up until Margaret Thatcher came on the scene.
Sure,
and now the unions hardly exist.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. That's what I wanted to
the film union has been totally decimated. Yeah.
It's been very hurt. But at the time, though, you became a union member.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you had.
No, I mean, basically, you were a union member if you worked in the industry. I mean, everybody is in the union in England, unless you work for the BFI, the British Film Institute, or something, which is on the periphery. Yeah.
So, and what was the name of that organization? I know it's changed and defunct now.
It was ACTT.
ACTT? Yeah. And because, as you say, it's gone, but at the time, did it provide you with a playing field to then go around to the various companies and promote your career?
No,
not really.
It didn't really do that. It didn't really do that. It offered some sort of job protection, rates and stuff. But no, it didn't. It didn't really help anybody get work. They had a like a trainee program. That was about as far as it went. Yeah.
So
But they recognised the film school that I went to, the National Film School. They recognised that anybody coming out of the film school automatically got entry into the union if they could get a job in the business. You know, which was a help because it was hard to get in the union. You know, it was kind of a closed shop. Really.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard. As I was trying to determine how those doors, how you got through those doors.
Yeah, no, it was tough to get in those days.
Mm-hmm. But by your film school experience,
that was an entry. Yeah.
That was your entry. Terrific. So we've got you going around the world, and you're a documentary assignment.
Assignment cameraman. Yeah, I guess
cameraman.
that's what they called me.
And that one went well. The show.
Yeah, it was shown here in America. It was shown on PBS. It was shown a number of places. Yeah, but by the time that came out, the same television company offered me this other job, which was to go to Eritrea and make a film about the guerrilla fighting in Eritrea. So
for a country lad from Devon, you're getting to travel quite a bit.
It was quite an eye-opener, really. Yeah, it was great. It was a great way of seeing the world. I mean, it was just incredible.
Sure.
Suddenly, I mean, I had up until my 20s, I'd been across the channel once, and that was it. And suddenly, I was going to Africa and sailing around the world, and I was really seeing the world.
So, what sorts of equipment were you using?
I had an MPR, I had my own old MPR, which actually used to be Chris Menges' MPR.
Oh, you know
Chris Menges?
Yes.
Yeah, I eventually bought it off the television company. I used it to shoot the Around the World race. Mm-hmm. And after that race, as part of my salary, I guess it was, they let me buy the camera. So I kept that camera for some time, used it in Eritrea.
So you're now equipped with a camera and a budding reputation.
Right, and by then I became a part of a little documentary company in London as well. So I sort of got a little base in London, and things were quite good. Really.
So you moved your base down to London, away from Western England, Southwest England, and you're now here. We're in London in the mid '70s, and it was a pretty energetic time for English filmmaking. Was that a fair statement?
Well, it was good in the field I was in, which was documentaries. It was like the end of a really great era. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know if you knew that Disappearing World series that was made by Granada Television. There were a lot of anthropological documentaries being made, and it was like the tail end of that period. I mean, Chris Menges, basically, that's what he did for years and years. He did some of the greatest documentaries, and I like to think I was kind of following in his footsteps, really. Way behind. But
well, that's not a bad footsteps to follow.
Not bad footsteps at all.
You know, he did some...
He was always the guy I was looking up to. I mean, his work, to me, my mind was second to none. He just did sort of fantastic work.
Mm-hmm. Here in this country, we hear about the BBC, but we don't hear about the commercial... there's a lot of commercial television in England.
Yeah.
I mean, there's... you mentioned Granada.
Yeah.
And Thames Television, is that a...
Thames used to do stuff. ATV, which was Central Television, that was the one that I used to work with most. It was Lou Grade's, at one time it was Lou Grade's company. Mm-hmm. That's what I used to do. I used to do a lot of work for them. But also the BBC I used to do a lot. Mm-hmm. I did some anthropological films for a series called Worlds Apart, which went to India and the Sudan doing films for them.
And all of this documentary work, did you develop a style that was using what was there, available light?
Very much so, yeah. I mean, I really think that it was a great grounding. I mean, I miss doing documentaries, really. I haven't done one since the last one I did, I think, was about 1983 or 4. I did a film about, this was my own film, with a friend, about... treatment of mental patients. We followed these different patients in a mental hospital. Like we took sort of 6-7 patients and followed them for about 3 months to go through their treatment and then what happened to them when they were released into the outside world. And that was a really interesting film. And I kind of miss doing that sort of thing in many ways. You know. But sorry, what was your question? You were talking about style.
It seems like you developed a style that would work with available what lighting was there, and since you're in documentary world, you couldn't really set up big lighting setups or make.
No, right. I mean, if you going to Eritrea or something to do a film, you wouldn't take any lights. I mean, it was just not possible. So, yeah, I had my own set of lenses made up that were quite high speed, so that prime lenses, so I could shoot in, low light situations and stuff. And you learn to, there was a lab photochem in New York, I think it is, we used to send our film to, because
back from London to photochem.
Yeah, because this lab was well known for pushing the film, get an extra stop out of it. So if you shot any sequences, like shoot sequences in candlelight or something, it would shoot it. You'd always send it to photochem for processing, because you always think you get a bit more out of it and stuff. So you'd learn all those tricks, how to really use the edge of the film,
Because I'm hearing a ground up career that you self-generated and got a lot of support from, but I'm hearing that you were able to develop those skills, by working and by taking the world as it was and bringing it back to the public. And there was a demand for this kind of a product.
That's what I say. I was lucky. It was probably the end of the best era of documentary making in England at the time, And that's what I like doing. That's what I was doing with my photography and stuff. I really wanted to take photographs or make films about people without altering the situation. I mean, that was the kind of world I was into.
And all of this was primarily 16 millimeter.
Yeah,
color film. Now color
film.
film now.
Yeah.
So you continued on that track for a while, but what happened then?
Well, at the same time, I guess it was I was doing some dramas, because there were people that I'd been at the film school with who were doing dramatic projects, and I would shoot for them as well, as well as doing documentaries, and I would do rock videos and stuff. I mean, I used to love doing that. Shoot a lot of concerts.
Top of the Pops and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was more. I shot some concerts on 35mm for a special one-off sort of programs, on different concerts and stuff. So I enjoyed that. So I was doing quite a kind of across the board.
So you're getting into more lighting setups and more.
I was doing a lot more lighting as I was going along. I think rock videos were kind of a good way of playing with it, lighting and an extreme sort of situation, as opposed to doing a documentary where you're using everything that's natural. So that was kind of fun.
Of course, they were using those landing aircraft lights and big overexposures.
That's right. All these new toys were coming in,
rock and roll trees in the back, and big grids on top and all that. So you were able to use those, and these were multiple camera setups.
Well, some of the concerts were. Some of the concerts I'd be going along with friends just as an extra camera, and sometimes I'd be lighting it, and I'd be hiring other guys to come along for me. There was a kind of pool of us that really did rock videos in London in the early 80s. I guess there were 15 cameramen that probably used to do most of them, and we always just sort of swap information, and we would go along and operate for each other and stuff. It's kind of good time, really.
Yeah, well, you get to hang out with the bands. So any bands that we would recognize?
We used to do everything. That we did the Clash and Clapton and the Queen. We did Queen and all sorts of people like that. I mean, I also shot one of Muddy Waters' last concerts, and B.B. King, Chuck Berry, and
the blues.
I did a lot of blues. I mean, I loved the blues. So if I could get to do those, film those guys, I did. So lucky I got to shoot some of them.
Yeah. So your career is expanding. It's going in lots of different directions now.
Yeah, it's lucky. It just sort of span off in different areas,
So that sort of continued on for a while. Now we're bringing you up, say, to the early '80s now and mid '80s, and you're having fun.
Yeah, I was up to about the early '80s. Up to then, I was doing. About the early '80s, I started doing more television dramas.
Okay.
I did a series of 4 one-hour episodes of a detective series in East End of London, and.
How'd you get involved in that?
I don't really know, actually. The director was a friend of a friend, and I don't know what he'd seen. I don't know why he asked me. No, I don't know how. I can't remember how I got the job, but I remember doing it and enjoying it. And
but this was more set dramatic script,
absolutely.
storyboard, the whole shot.
Yeah, not storyboarded, but yeah, it was more, it was quick television, cops and robbers drama, really. Hopefully it had a little bit more than that, but that's basically what it was. It was TV, product.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to work very fast. I mean, the schedule was like 6 minutes a day. It was that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun. I didn't want to do it for long, but it's too exhausting.
Well, the way of doing work in England is very different than here. I mean, in terms of the hours, in terms of... I went by the BBC and they break every day at 4 o'clock for lunch.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
for
I mean,
tea
it depends who you're with. This was being done by like an independent company, kind of, for a television station. So there was a lot more pressure than that. Yeah, the BBC was apparently quite relaxed. I never experienced any of that. Everything I was doing was very fast and furious.
Well, would they do the 14-hour days that we're doing in this?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh yeah. So very similar in terms of the requirements of what was.
Oh yeah, I mean, it depends on the project. I mean, when I started doing small independent features in England, 14-hour days is nothing,
Really?
Oh, I remember. I mean, I've done it here as well. I remember starting shooting, like 4 p.m. and going through till midday the next day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that wasn't that unusual. Work
till you drop, huh?
Yeah, I mean, but that was the thing. If you were doing a low budget independent picture, that was all part of the thing. It was for your own benefit as well as anybody else's, really, because you would get, if you wanted to get the light you wanted to shoot the scene at a certain time of day, and that. I mean, I was pushing for doing that as much as the producers were. I mean, you just wanted to produce the best you could do. Yeah. So
this got to you then doing this small action show in London, got you doing dramatic television, and then
that helped. I mean, well, not so much doing television. It helped that then there was my first break really in features was the second or third film I did, but the first one that got noticed was directed by Mike Radford, who you might have known. He did Il Postino a few years ago, and basically I did 3 films with him early on. And the first was Another Time, Another Place. And I'd done documentaries with him. I'd done like a film about Van Morrison with him and a couple of other things. And so, we were good friends, but I think he was a bit unsure of my features, ability. But then because I'd done this TV series, that sort of persuaded him I could cope with doing his first feature. So, and that was my break, really. That film did really well. I mean, it did well at the Cannes Film Festival, and, people talked about it in England. And it was a good movie. And that really was my break in the features world. That sort of changed me from being a documentary filmmaker into a features cameraman, I suppose.
Well, there always seems to be a distinct corner that people turn to get into that field.
Well, that was the first film really I did that was noticed, a dramatic film, and then the same director, Mike Radford, went on to do 1984 about a year later, and then that really sort of set me on the road.
And that was based on the classic.
That was the George Orwell
novel,
yeah.
and that so you're starting to get noticed now in terms of being a known camera. Now,
people. I don't know why people said. I would go to interviews after that film. I was kind of like, I was offered quite a bit of work, different features after that work, but I'd go into interviews and they'd say, well, no, you can't be Roger Deakins, because like I was then 32 or something, I don't know. I mean, it was like they thought the person that shot it was much older and all the rest. So.
Oh, well, how lucky for you. And you had to
funny,
surprise
really.
them. Yeah. So they wanted to see the gray hair. They didn't want
no, I've got it, and there we go.
But again, it was an exciting time in English filmmaking. I mean, there was busy work going on, and
it was good. Channel 4 had just opened up as a television station, with public money and stuff, and they were doing low budget features that were geared for short theatrical release, but also for their own television network. So these features were around. The budget was, 700,000 or something like that, which was reasonable. I mean, it's a good budget for England. and in those days, probably even now.
Yeah, and that's pounds you're talking about.
Yeah, so that was
So
pretty
it's
good.
million.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's $1 million features is what we would turn them into rough way.
Right.
So they're expecting and giving you the tools to make a quality product.
Right. Yeah.
And it's no longer a $50,000 feature. It's a it's a $1 million feature. So you got to have a story that flows and intellectual storytelling by pictures. And this is it's a much better situation.
Yeah. It was it really opened up the industry for a lot of new talent, really, and not a lot of people that couldn't get into the established feature world. They found this as a way in. A lot of people from the film school or different, all from different places.
Now, did you alter your techniques as you grew into this? Did you start making fuller use of the crew and making of the opportunities given to you, the tools?
Oh yeah, I mean, like 1984 was like 80% of it was on big sets in studios, and the only experience I had at studios at that point was doing, the odd set on a small TV drama or rock videos. So that was really rock videos. Was my experience of studio work, and I mean, I'm sure I made use of it.
Did they use a system like we have here when you use gaffers and electricians?
It's very, very the same, really. I mean, we don't have a grip crew in the sense that you have here a separate grip crew and electric crew, but we have grips, they're riggers, and they work with a construction unit. It's all split a bit differently, but basically it's the same people do the similar jobs, and you have the same relationship with them. Yeah.
And you go through the set and tell your gaffer. And do they call them gaffers, chief electrician?
Yeah.
Do they?
Gaffers,
okay.
Yeah.
And they tell the gaffer what the look is that you're looking for, and then allow him to or her to do the job, right? Yeah,
pretty well. I mean, I actually started, and every film I did in England was with the same gaffer. It was a guy that I'd done a few rock videos with. This great Irish guy who's still a dear friend, and we basically came up together. He'd never done a picture before 1984, and it was like my fourth or fifth picture and the first sort of big studio number, and we basically worked it out together.
Is your answer machine going to get this?
Yeah, it's all right. It's just
let it ring and it picks it up. Okay. Yeah. So we're getting, this is real television. You have the construction in the back, and you've got telephone calls going on. But if you need to break, we'll do that.
No, I'm fine actually. Yeah.
Okay. So you started working with Michael Bradford, got 1984 in, and then a whole bunch more seems to have fallen into your area.
Yeah, it became a really busy time after that. Yeah, I did. I was doing like 3 pictures a year. Yeah.
And these are all that sort of same budgeting range, $1 million or so?
A bit more. I mean, 1984 ended up being about $7.5 million, I guess.
Oh, that's
like
a substantial movie.
Which is quite a size for those days. What else did I do after that? Sid and Nancy.
Well, I have here Shady, Defense of the Realm.
Shady was a small, television picture. That was Channel 4. Defense of the Realm was produced by David Putnam. That was a slightly bigger film.
And David Putnam always was into big epics, huh?
Yeah, this certainly wasn't an epic, but it was kind of bigger than that. Its finance came from lots of different sources, but that was a sizable, interesting film. Yeah.
And Sid and Nancy, that was a...
Sid and Nancy was like the first one that brought me over here, actually, because
really?
we shot like 6 weeks in England and been in Paris, and then a few weeks in New York and 5 weeks maybe in Los Angeles, a bit down towards Mexico, a bit in San Francisco. Became a bit of a road movie, we were doing pieces everywhere to get the flavour of the Sex Pistols, and they travelled around a lot.
Oh, that's what it was about. That was
Sid Vicious.
Back into your Sid Vicious, right?
Yeah.
So back into your rock and roll bag, and.
But I was interested in that film because most of it I shot handheld, and it was very much back into the sort of documentary world, and we really wanted to recreate that period and the whole feel of it. So we would reconstruct some concerts with the Sex Pistols, and we'd get an audience in. I remember one we had up in one concert they did up in near Euston in London. They got this audience in, and I mean they were punks. The whole audience was real punks, and a band was on stage, and Gary Oldman played Sid Vicious, and he was like really good, and the band was actually really good. The band they got together, and all the audiences, you know, they're getting so into it. And in those days, the punks used to spit. You know, if they liked something, they would spit. So I remember being in the audience trying to shoot this whole scene handheld and suddenly becoming like showered in this phlegm. It was horrible.
Oh, no.
So I went around some of it. I was wearing this sort of plastic Max when I went in these concerts after that. But it was like, you know, that was all part of the way we were making the film, you know. Yeah, reality. But that was a good experience.
Sure. Then going back to your resume, The Kitchen Toto?
Yeah, that was a film in Kenya. It's about a boy growing up during the Mau Mau rebellion.
Oh.
It was really interesting. He was the idea that this kid worked for a local white government official, and he was split between loyalty to his race and the Mau Mau guerrillas, basically, and loyalty to his, you know, the family he worked for, the white government official and his wife. And
so again, you were on location, and you were...
We were on location almost right on the Ugandan border in the last surviving rainforest in Kenya, right up near Lake Victoria.
So it sounds like the producers are using you as a director of photography who can bring them a documentary look to their...
Well, that was, you know, I mean, because I'd done so many films by then in Africa doing documentaries. I mean, that was an obvious attraction to the producers, that they knew I could cope with the situations and stuff. It wouldn't be any big surprises going into
Well, there's nothing easy about going into Africa with a film crew.
No, this was particularly difficult because where the location they picked in this rainforest, the weather there was like extraordinary. I think we got the wrong. I know we got the wrong season, and
too wet.
Yeah, I mean, in the mornings it was beautiful blue sky and nothing would happen, but come lunchtime it would be like horrendous downpours, and
that would kind of stop you from working.
And one day the forest was covered in ice. It was a hailstorm. It was like 6 inches of ice in this jungle. It's the most extraordinary sight, and all the leaves were being stripped from the trees by these, you know, those hailstones. It was an incredible look. I mean, it was totally wrong for the film. I wish it had been right. It was extraordinary.
Put that in your bank somewhere.
You know, but then it's a real problem because you're shooting an exterior in the morning and it's bright sunlight, and then you're trying to finish it in the afternoon where you can't. It's raining, so you decide then to go inside, shoot interiors, and basically it was one big composite set. It was like a colonial house and gardens set in the middle of a jungle in a clearing, and so, you know, the exteriors were obviously in the gardens of the house, and then you'd want to go in and shoot the interiors in the same house. So it was a real struggle. You couldn't leave anything standing. You'd have to, every afternoon we'd light the interior of the house, and then every morning we'd come, rip all the lights down and shoot the exterior, and so it would go on. It was quite a challenge. But we got it done, and it was it was a struggle. Most people fell out with each other, and, you know, it was one of those. But in the end, it was a very nice little film. It was a very nice film. Even, it's funny actually, even Marty Scorsese, when he was interviewing me for Kundun, even mentioned it. He said, you know.
Well, now this brings up lighting black people. I mean, black folks are always a difficult thing. Do you have any particular bag of tricks that you like to use to?
Well, no. I mean, it was that was difficult because that was difficult because we were in very small rooms, very dark rooms, lots of little huts, and lots of dark, dense jungle. And all the characters in the films were wearing these white jalabias, you know, so you'd get this little black kid, I mean, who was really deep black, wearing this very, very white jalabia. I mean, it was certainly a problem.
A jalabia, that's a...
It's like a white, it's like, you know, it's a long flowing robe, basically. Okay. You know, it's one piece, you know, what basically... It's Islamic form of dress that's come through Africa, but they're usually quite bright, you know, and that was faithful to the look of the film. But I really would have liked to have stained it down a lot more. No, it does prove a problem. You've really got to be aware of it. But in terms of tricks, not really. You've always got to think about getting a little bit of light, just kicking from one side. That always helps, But
no development pushing or flashing or anything like that?
No. Well, I don't really do a lot of tricks like that. I kind of just like the negative to be fully exposed, maybe on the high side. I don't like to flash. I don't like to use a lot of filters. I mean, I just like life to be the way I see it, without a sort of veneer.
Your documentary.
It goes back to what I really wanted to do when I first started. I love seeing things and picturing things. I love the way reality is, and I just want to sort of take reality and record it, really, rather than play around with it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to see different ways different people approach these same issues in different ways, and it's when you're shooting with a light crew, like it sounds like the approach that you're taking, the more documentary approach, that is to see what sorts of things you would try to do. Here we on Kitchen Toto, obviously you're out in the middle of the jungle, you don't have many lights. Right.
We had a 50 kilowatt generator, I think, 4-wheel drive, so it could get to the locations. And I think 6Ks had just come out. Lee Lighton had just made some 6Ks, and we took these to the jungle, and they all said, "No, you must be mad. You need brutes, the atmosphere and all that." I said, "I am taking brutes. I need HMIs. This is small. We haven't got the power for brutes. That's," and they were fine.
Yeah.
They were absolutely fine. We didn't have any problem with them at all, and everybody was saying, "Oh, you must be mad," but they worked out really
shiny
well.
boards, anything like that, reflectors?
Yeah. I carry a lot of those days. I was into using big Grifflons. They had just been. We just discovered Grifflons, so that I guess that's what I was taking in those days.
To reflect as well as to soften.
I would use
as a butterfly.
Huge exterior Grifflons, and then. And if I was lighting the house, as I was saying in the afternoons, we'd have to go and light the interiors of the house when it was pitch black outside and pouring with rain, and we'd have to light it to look like full sun. I just used big China silks, basically project through them, because we didn't have I like bouncing, but we didn't have enough light to bounce to get the exposure, so I'd have to go direct, and I'd just diffuse it with China silks, Yeah.
Wow. Well,
a lot of this is this practicalities of things. It's like those films. Kitchen Toto was like 1.3 million or something. Which, when you're in Africa, and we were out there for 12 weeks, and we were in 2 different major locations. You can't take that much equipment. The scale of the film. You have to cut your package to fit the film. You can't say I want 20 brutes and 100 amp, like whatever. You just can't. It's not an endless kind of piece of string. So you take what you feel you can work with and what you can use in the time you've got, and that's what you do. You make the best of it. Which I think I draw on my documentary experience to make it work. Because I know actually you can make a film without any lights, without anybody, just with a camera. If you had to, you just have to be careful, choose your light and choose your moment and choose the angle. You know what I mean? It's like...
Well, it makes for the texture of the movie and what sort of emotions you're bringing across is what's... it all goes back to the lighting packages and what you can do with a given project.
Yeah, I'm very much of the mind sometimes you can have too much stuff. You can have too much technology and too much surrounded by so much crap, you never actually get the film made. I really think that happens a lot.
Well, it's always a story too, isn't it? You have to communicate that.
Yeah.
Can't lose sight of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Going on back to your resume, which is we're just starting to get into the really great stuff. Stormy Monday, White Mischief. These were again with Michael Bradford.
Mike Figgis was Monday.
Stormy Monday, yeah.
Yeah, and then Mike Bradford was White Mischief again. White Mischief was again in Kenya. up around Lake Navashu. It was about
another Africa movie.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that was a fabulous one. It was like about the period during the war when the white Highlanders became kind of totally over the top, and that basically these rich people were living out there to avoid the war, and they were basically living in a paradise. But it was like the world was changing, and it was like.
And they were avoiding it by going up the mountain.
Yeah, it was extraordinary.
Wow. So again, you're back to Africa doing another project there. Pascali's Island, was that?
That was a film. Ben Kingsley starred in it. It was a period film set at the end of the Ottoman Empire in Greece, in Rhodes, in fact.
So you went there?
Yeah, we shot in Rhodes and Simi. Again, a very low budget. We had a small crew, and we were traveling around lots of locations around the islands off Greece. Yeah, it was great.
But a period piece. Now this is a very different
period
thing.
Piece. Yeah.
To get a period look, did you rely on set decor and costuming, or was it? Did you have a look through the camera that you were trying to achieve? Did you?
That film. I really went for a lot of color on. I was really getting into color then. It's funny coming from being a black and white stills guy. And that was, I was a purist black and white stills photographer, really. That's all I really believed in. And then Pascali's Island, Stormy Monday and Pascali's Island, really, I started really playing with color and seeing how far I could go. So things like, I shot a lot of Pascali's Island at Magic Hour. I wanted to get the feeling of a sort of blue twilight outside a lot of these locations, and then very, very rich oil lamps, so I'd use very kind of, I'd have my key lights really dimmed down, so they were very rich and orange, and I wouldn't use any correction either on the camera or the windows, so you had an incredible separation between, the blue exterior and this golden candlelight,
Wonderful.
So I did a lot of that. And I really got into that.
So you had to be up at dawn to get your low sun angle and then the sunset shots.
Yeah, we did a lot of that. But it was great. We had a really small crew, and the producer sort of mucked in. Even some days the producer was carrying the camera equipment onto the beach so we could get sunrise shots and stuff like that. It was a really great little tight unit that we had worked together on quite a few films by then, and it was the same producer who'd done Sid and Nancy, so we all knew each other, and it was like
knew how you worked,
bunch of guys really trying to make the best film we could.
When you schedule something like that, I mean, do you tell the producer, look, this is you read the script? I'm trying to get the process that you use, and this might be a good one to talk about. Would you read the script and then tell the producers and the director your vision of what it is after you've heard from their vision? How does it work for you? Yeah,
you sit down. I mean, before you've got the job, you basically you talk around it, see what the director's take is of the script, and then give him your own, so that you know that you can work together on it. Because sometimes I've been in interviews and I've been so far apart from the director and his take on the script and my take that you just know it's not going to be a good working situation. It's not going to happen. You can't go in thinking, oh, I can make it what I want, even if knowing it's not what the director wants. So you've got to know you're somewhere in sync there, or the director's happy with your take on it. So. I mean, on like Pascali's Island, we'd sit down and talk about it visually, what we wanted it to look like, sure. And then obviously practically, we'd go through, when you basically do location scouts, you look at the locations and you figure what time of day you want to shoot it. I mean, there was certain, there was exterior big Greek ruins, for instance, and you just knew there was no way you wanted to shoot that in the hot sun of the day, But it was just for the effect of the scene, and other scenes were better if you shot them in the full heat of the day. It was like you wanted that blinding light, So then you kind of go through with the producer, more with the AD than anything, to do a schedule to try and accommodate the different looks you want, and the director wants, It's like a jigsaw puzzle, really, And then you have, obviously, you're working on a film like that, which is not huge budget, and some things have to go. You can't shoot everything at dawn. You can't shoot everything at magic hour. You haven't got an endless budget. So sometimes some places you compromise and whatever.
And when you shoot a magic hour or a dawn attack, you mix your lights. I mean, is it you use your HMIs as well as light? How does it work? I mean, is it you let God light the background and you light the foreground? I mean, I've heard all these.
It really depends what you're doing. I mean, God comes into it a lot, I must say. He's the main man. We had this scene in Pascali's Island, and I didn't know it, but we were doing it was like the Turks were coming onto the beach to some Turkish soldiers to arrest this archaeologist played by Charles Dance, right? So it was meant to be a night scene. Well, obviously, we had this sailing ship and we had these guys rowing ashore in their boat and storming up the beach, and there's no way you could light it. We didn't have the lights. I mean, I had a couple of 6Ks. It wasn't a big production. So I said, well, we got to do it magic hour. But okay, we all set up to do it at magic hour. What I didn't know was there was a full moon that night. And what I didn't know is just at magic hour, it was just above the horizon behind the ship. And talk about luck.
What a wonderful thing.
Because it was a fantastic shot. I mean, it was like beautiful blue exposure, which you would expect with the silhouettes. But there was this huge moon shining all the way across the water, outlining the ship. And I mean, nowadays you'd think, oh, that was CGI.
Yeah, this is special effects. We put that in afterwards.
But it wasn't. And I never did this. I didn't. Nobody. It was scheduled where it was scheduled. It wasn't like we'd thought, wow, we want the full moon shining in the water, But it was a great shot,
But God gave you that, and you took it.
God did it. I mean,
there you go.
And everybody goes, oh wow, oh, thank you very much. You take what you can get,
And something like that kind of a shot, what kind of exposure would you have? I mean, I know it's a magic hour. You're twinking between, like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to go too low. I mean, that shot we shot. I know we would have shot it at 2.8, and 2.8 would have probably been 2 stops under. It may have been even more wide open. I mean, I tend to shoot on. I'd shoot on Distagon, Zeiss Distagon, so I'd have had a 1.3 if I needed it.
So you like to shoot at the wide open part?
Well, I did then. I mean, I used to shoot more wide open than I do now, actually. But then I guess it was because, I couldn't do it any other way. And then we didn't have fast stock then. We didn't even have a 200 ASA stock.
Sure.
Then,
and it's more the documentary style.
Everything was 48, and we didn't have a lot of light. I mean, that's what we did to make it work. I mean, there was a big night scene in that film, which is the extension of the shot I was just talking about. It goes then into full night. And we had to light this sort of gorge where the archaeologist is digging out this statue. I remember lighting it at 2 6Ks off an 8x8 white board, just bounced on the hillside, just washing down over this canyon. And if I try to do it now, I don't know how I got the exposure.
Yeah, that sounds like you're not many foot candles at all.
No, it was a huge area. I mean,
huge
it was a huge area.
2 6Ks.
With 2 6K HMIs bounced off one 8x8 white card. And again, it wasn't a high-speed stock. It was 100 ASA stock.
There's just a little glance of light back there, but it was enough to give me the impression that there was something out there. Huh?
Right. I remember thinking it looked great. I didn't do anything. We'd go into close-ups. We'd do all these shots, and I didn't do anything all night because we had one night to shoot it. So I just shot with that light, and nothing moved all night. And I looked at it a while back and thought, no, that doesn't make sense. How the hell did I do that?
How'd that work?
I can't remember now. It must have been right on the edge.
But it worked.
Yeah.
Let's see. This. Now you start getting into Mountains of the Moon, Long Walk Home, Air America with Spottiswoode. Now you're talking about big adventure, boom, boom, shoot 'em up, where that kind of stuff is.
Yeah, well,
that's
Air America was. I mean, Air America was. Was a difficult film for me. I wasn't happy on that movie. Air America, I thought was going to be like MASH, but it was going to Laos during the Vietnam War. I mean, the book and the original script read like MASH.
More comedic?
Black, very black political comedy. And in the end, the film's a buddy movie, with lots of action. And I was really disappointed.
Mel Gibson's and exposing the heroin smuggling.
Yeah, and it wasn't really, it wasn't Mel's fault. It was just too many people put in too much influence on the script, and the whole thing got watered down, and it wasn't really, the original hard-edge vision sort of just disappeared, and I was really disappointed in that. So after that, I backed off doing those bigger pictures, because I just think it was too many compromises. I'd rather work on a small film which is true to its intention and doesn't basically get bastardized.
And that's how you sort of got involved with the Coen brothers and Barton Fink?
Yeah, I mean, actually, after Air America, I'd moved back down to Devon again. I'd kind of given up my place in London. I was selling up, and I was deciding I was just going to do a few films, a few films, maybe one film a year, And then Joel and Ethan rang up, so things changed again.
Well, now this was pretty early on in their career too, was it? In terms
they'd done Miller's Crossing just before we teamed up. Raising Arizona was a big success, and obviously Blood Simple. So they'd done three movies. Each one had been very successful in its own way.
I'd say quirky would be what the people label theirs are. Barton Fink was certainly in that same sort of category. But as I recall, what happened with Barton Fink? Is this the sort of movie that you like better?
I really like it. Yeah, I think it's a very stylish piece of work. It's kind of a very surreal comedy. I mean, I like the surrealism in it. Some people were confused by it because they say it's felt like two movies. It started off as a film about a writer with writer's block in Hollywood, and then became this kind of strange, noirish, surreal piece with John Goodman acting as like the avenging angel or something. I mean, but I like that. I don't see why films have to be so linear as they are these days. I like the fact that it kept you guessing. It kind of, suddenly went, changed direction.
And this, while you had done American films, this really got you into this area. Is this a fair statement? I mean, really got you into the American?
Well, it's the first one I did over here. No, it's not, actually. It's not the first one. I'd done Long Walk Home over here before.
Oh, yes, we passed over that one. But
Long Walk Home was the first film I did over here, completely, in America. But Barton Fink was the first one I did completely in LA. So that was kind of different for me. And that's really what drew me to live in LA, because I spent the time doing that film, and I was staying down in the marina near here. And I just got to love the area, I just got to really like being here.
Quite a different city than people like to portray it, huh?
Yeah, it is. When you're actually in it, it's very different, I was always very nervous about coming over here at all. I just didn't think it was anywhere I could feel remotely connected to. But actually,
it's changed. You've changed a bit.
Well, I've changed, I'm sure. But it's actually, I've met some wonderful people here. I've got a lot of good friends here. It's just such a positive sort of place, in terms of the job, and also just day to day. It's so positive, So I enjoy being here.
Yeah, we've gone about an hour. And would you believe it? Let's take a break, and we'll reconfigure here in just a minute. So could you stop tape, please? Sure. We're back. How's it going so far? You enjoying it?
Good, yeah. No, it's very pleasant.
Good. Well, you're telling us some great information and some good stories, and
good.
We're having a good time with it. When we were last here, we started talking about the Coen brothers and how you had gotten involved with Barton Fink, and you now shifted your base of operation. Did you move to the country, to the United States at that point, or just?
I moved at the end of that year. I did another film, Homicide, with David Mamet up in Baltimore, and after that film, I came down here to Santa Monica and looked for somewhere to live here. Yeah, I looked for somewhere as a base, really. Yeah.
There are no expatriates from England here in Santa Monica, are there? We only have a few British pubs, right? Is that?
Only a few British pubs. Everybody, which is every other person you meet on the street seems to be English. Which is good and bad,
Well, we have expatriates from every place. Everyone seems to end up there.
Yeah. So it's nice. I mean, that's what's nice. It's just a wonderful mix of people from different countries and cultures. That's what I really love about it.
But did you find it difficult immigrating? Did anyone give you any problems coming across? Just out of curiosity,
what, visa-wise?
Visa-wise and all that stuff?
No,
not at all.
No. By then I'd had a green card. Oh no, I didn't have a green card then. I got a green card actually when I got married. But no, I'd had a visa for a long time, work permit.
Yeah, because sometimes some people have difficulties and other people don't have too much. But if you were brought in by these direct producers, it seems like
right.
They'd smoothed it out for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for you. So you're here now. You worked on Thunderheart.
Yeah.
Mike
Captive directed that. Yeah.
And what was that one about?
That was about the Indian reservation on Pine Ridge Reservation,
right,
in the Badlands of Dakota. It was kind of a story set around real incidents that happened in the 70s. Leonard Peltier was, it was that whole period the film was about in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Another documentary.
Well,
to a degree.
I mean, it was kind of a realist piece, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Val Kilmer was in it. It was hardly a documentary.
Excuse me.
But you know what I mean, yeah. But we were trying to create a feeling of that period and what was happening. It was set against a real situation.
Isn't Leonard Peltier still in jail over there?
He's still in jail,
yeah. But then started doing Passion Fish. That was more of a John, set piece.
Yeah, that was John Sayles.
With John Sayles?
Yeah, great director. That was a wonderful character study. It was the sort of thing I really liked doing. A film about people, real problems, real situations.
And then The Secret Garden. And this was wasn't that when what was The Secret Garden about?
Well, that's that I forget who wrote the book now. It's a famous children's story about the crippled boy and the strange father and kids, animals.
Kids and animals. You find them difficult to work with, like everyone?
Actually, that was a dream. The kids we had were so kind of wild. Huh? They were absolutely great. And the animals were more difficult, but the kids were great. That was the last film I did back in England, actually. A lot of shot on the stage at Pinewood. It was kind of interesting to be back there, having done so many films here, based out of America. There was a different experience. It was nice. The
techniques are starting to blend for you and change a little bit as
crossover. There wasn't any problem about going in a different situation as far as technically. It was just interesting being back in England as being somebody now living in America.
Just out of curiosity, do you use any particular type of camera, Panavision or Aeroflex?
I've always shot Aeroflex, really. I did actually Secret Garden. We're talking about. I shot that on Moviecam.
The Moviecam, yeah.
And I don't know why now. But I've always really shot. We shot with Moviecam on that because it was before the 535 came out, and we had these kids, and it was like, we had a lot of intimate scenes, and I just thought the Moviecam would be a bit quieter than the Arri 4 and the BL4. But now the Arri 535's come out, I'm sort of totally in love with that.
So you're really very much into the Aeroflex systems.
Yeah, I started shooting with Aeroflex. I had my own Aeroflex. I bought an Arri 3 when I started shooting 1984. In fact, I bought an Arri 3 then.
Great MOS cameras.
Yeah, and then a BL3.
BL3. Okay.
Yeah, and a whole set of Distagons and stuff. And I like the lenses, and I really like having my own lenses and knowing those lenses are there. I can trust and rely on them, and not thinking somebody else has been using them and broken this or whatever. I really.
So you like having your own package with you all the time?
Yeah, and I did for years and years while I was in England. But since I've been here, I think it's too difficult, and cameras now are too expensive anyway. I just wouldn't go there anymore.
Well, that 535 has gotten real expensive.
Wow. Yeah, and they're changing so much. There's so many modifications, and now there's a new Cooke lenses come out, which I'm sure are hugely expensive, but they're wonderful lenses. So, I don't have my own equipment.
Well, what do you look for in a lens? You obviously.
I like everything to be as crystal clear that's really what I look for. I want something fast, and I want something very, very sharp and clean. And basically, that's what
matching
I'm
as
going
a
for.
set so that they all have the right...
obviously, and matching as a set, and without, you know, aberration and, you know, barreling and all the other technical things I don't know much about. But you know, I like my images to start as clear, you know, and as clean from flare as possible. I mean, I tend to shoot with prime lenses just about all the time. I mean, every film maybe I'll do 1 or 2 shots that need to have a zoom lens, but ordinarily every shot I do would be with a prime, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of particular about that. I mean, I always feel that I want to start with the optimum quality, and if I want to diffuse it, if I want to do something with it, then I can do it. I don't want to start with a lens that's, you know, substandard.
Well, in one lens manufactured on one day by the same manufacturer, the next lens off the assembly line might not be nearly as good.
It's true as well. You know, when we start a project, you know, an assistant will sort of test 3 or 4 lenses, you know, if they're not ones we've used before, and pick the best ones. You know, I mean, we do that, and it's true. Yeah, sometimes, yeah, they're not all the same. Even, you know, even the best manufacturers, their lenses are not exactly the same. You know?
So you start with as high quality product as you can in terms of the lenses, and then have you been using different diffusions for as it's called for, or is this is one of...
Yeah,
I like to keep it pretty clean in that
I keep
part.
it very clean. I mean, I very rarely use diffusions. I mean, I sometimes will use, you know, a light black pro mist or a light white pro mist sometimes, but that's very rare. It's you know, for particular close up, you know, with a female actress, you know, star. I mean, I'll put some diffusion on. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it really makes that much difference. I think it's psychological to me, and it's maybe psychological for the actress, because the actress sees you're putting something on the front of the lens and they probably feel better. But I don't know that it really makes much difference. I think photography is, you know, I think it's about the lighting more than it is about what you put in front of the lens. I mean, I think you can do so much to make somebody look the way you want them to look, whether that's you want them to look good or bad, depending on the film, but you can only do so much. And basically, you know, the camera doesn't lie.
So you were telling us in the break that you now have, because of the area that you want to light and the sets that are demanded of you, that you've gone to a soft light look for your actors. Is this
Well, I find a lot of the time, you know, I like the camera to be kind of fluid, and I'm finding directors more and more like to keep a scene going. They like the camera to not be a character in it, but they don't like to shoot a scene in cuts so much. They like to get the performance, and the performance is obviously better if you keep a scene going and can play the shot longer. So then you find you're lighting more movement and more spaces, and it's, you know, to accommodate that, I found bigger, softer light sources. That's the better way of going, really.
And do you like to use chimeras or griffons?
I do use chimeras. I do use chimeras. I do use griffons. My preference really is polystyrene. I mean, you get more light for your money. I mean, it's a better reflective surface, and you know, smoother reflective surface. And I tend to make up, you know, in a studio, I tend to make up large panels that are just, you know, big sheets, you know, multiple sheets of polystyrene. They might be 30 feet long or something.
Really?
Sometimes.
Yeah, that big a source.
Yeah, and then, you know, above the set, for instance, if I'm punching light through a window, on the last film, I had a series of reflectors. They were probably like 16 by 8, you know, and there would be like 4 or 5 of these outside the set on pulleys. And above the set, above the windows, I'd have like a line of 10Ks, maybe, depending on the size of the windows, you know, 20 or 30 10Ks all punching into this white polystyrene and just giving a soft light coming back through the window. And sometimes I would have one of these reflectors coming in at, say, 45 degrees to the window, and sometimes I'd have one above that as well, giving much more of a top light that was coming down through the window at a narrow angle and just hitting the floor. You know,
and use a reflector for that, like a
big polystyrene reflectors. Yeah.
Wow. Nice soft sources.
Yeah, nice soft sources. I mean, if you need more light, I'll use that Roscoe silver stipple, and I'll make up reflectors in that. On Secret Garden, for instance, there's quite big, dark interior sets. You know, I guess they're kind of Edwardian-looking Victorian sets anyway. Dark woodwork and dark drapes, and but big windows, and I wanted to punch quite a lot of light through. So then I made up silver stipple reflectors, and I was just thinking what the biggest one. I think the biggest reflector we had was like 20 by 30, maybe 20 by 40.
That big.
Yeah, and we'd frame it out, you know, with pipe and put it on pulleys so that we could angle it. And the same thing, you'd have 10Ks on the rail above the set window, punching into the reflector, and obviously that's slightly directional, so you would angle the reflector to get the the best light output through the window. And what it is, I mean, I like it because you get natural reflections. If you're projecting even through a silk, you tend, if you've got a floor like this, you've got an oak
wooden
floor with a shine on it. If you're projecting, you still tend to get the source. Each lamp is reflected as a point source in the floor, and on Secret Garden we had a lot of that. We had tables that were shiny. We had a dining room with just the cutlery and stuff that was on. You wanted to have one sort of soft source coming through. So I found these big silver reflectors. They're a good balance between being economical with the amount of light you've got, I mean the amount of firepower you've got, and getting a softish look,
It gives you two sources for the price of one.
Really, it gives you a lot more punch. I mean, than if you just had white up there, Obviously, I mean, it's not as economical as light and direct,
But these techniques, this is great stuff.
Producers freak when they see the order for Roscoe's silver stipple, and it's like roll after roll,
big pieces of it.
2 grips are making up these huge reflectors. But then when you're shooting, it gives you so much flexibility because you've got this kind of soft, punchy light. It's almost the set is lit, and you can just move around and maybe use a white card to fill in the faces and just catch the bounce coming through the window like you would in this room, and just fill in the face.
Did you use some floor lights to augment also?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say use a white bounce and either catch the window light or bring some more light in. Yeah, often you rig a light in the middle of the room just to be able to do that, so it's out of the way or whatever. But on get back to Secret Garden, what we did was these big silver bounce sources outside the window, and then inside I would always have practical lights on. There'd always be oil lamps or little they had little chandeliers or whatever, and so I'd use that to give a kind of golden glow on the faces, and then use the light outside the window would probably be probably half blue, so you had this difference in color between the daylight and the warm practicals.
Once you've established the warm practicals, then with your floor lights you would use a nice warm lamp, for
I mean, I usually, if I'm using a practical sources, I'd usually have all the lamps on dimmers, so I'd bring them down to 2500K or something, so they're fairly warm, and then I'll often use the Roscoe gold stipple, and I'd bounce off that, which again, it gives you the warmth of a kind of oil lamp or a warm practical, but it also gives you some sort of directionality to it, without, if it was poly, it tends to go everywhere, but this gold stipple just you can focus with it quite nicely. So I've really got into that. I kind of sometimes use huge walls of gold stipple. On Kundun, it was gold everywhere,
Oh, we got to talk about Kundun. Dick Montaigne says that's the best lit movie that he's seen in a long time. But wait a minute, we'll get to that in a second, because we're into like what really a lot of people know you for is these more Coen Brothers movies. See,
it's
the
funny,
Hudsucker
really.
Proxy, and Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption is the original
Which wasn't
title.
Coen Brothers, but
I'm sorry, that wasn't.
That was Frank Darabont.
That was, excuse me.
But Coen Brothers I did Barton Fink and Hudsucker Proxy, Fargo, and then The Big Lebowski just last year.
Now, let's talk them as a group then. The Coen brothers approach is a little bit different than others, or is it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is, and it's funny that you say I'm kind of known for those films, and I suppose I am because. But most of my work previous to that and outside of working with them is very naturalistic. But working with them, I mean, they're very much stylists. You know, the camera so often in their films, like in Barton Fink, the camera is as much a character as John Turturro is a character in the film. You know, I mean, they actually use the camera and, as it's almost like a being on the set. The way they move the camera and it observes, it draws the audience in and puts the audience in a very interesting
Fargo
position.
was kind of the opposite. It was
Fargo was, yeah. See, when I first started, you know, it was interesting. Barton Fink and then Hudsucker as well. It's very much about camera moves, about style. And then when we did Fargo, Joel and Ethan said, you know, we really want this to feel like a documentary. And I said, well, documentary, you know, you don't have tracking shots. You basically shoot on a 40mm lens and you stay back a bit, and usually you shoot over the shoulders instead of singles, because and so gradually we started doing that. We used longer lenses and stuff, which was a big departure really from what they had been doing previously. But then when we did Big Lebowski, we went back more to the wider lenses and the camera as a character again. You know, it's very much, they've got a very clear idea of the kind of look and feel they want to the film, and everything's storyboarded. I mean, they storyboard, and then I sit down with them before we shoot, and we go through all the storyboards, and we all contribute to it. And then before we shoot, there's a final big book of storyboards, which is the whole movie in pictures. And then every day we shoot, the storyboards are separated, and you get a copy of whatever it is, however many shots you've got to do that day. It could be 9 or 15 or however many shots for the day. Every member of the crew that would normally get sides, you know, gets a copy of the storyboards. It's a great way of working. But I say they do have a very, very clear idea of the kind of film they're going for, and stylistically what that's going to be. So that's interesting.
Well, Fargo was so bleak. I mean,
as you said earlier, it's very minimalist.
Minimalist, yes.
We would go look at locations, and Rick Heinrichs, the designer, and myself would go, God, this is really boring. And Joel would say, yeah, but it's not boring enough. It's too interesting. What do you mean? I mean, they really were going for places that were just anonymous.
Yeah,
you know,
flat horizons and white.
Yeah, but even the interiors, you know, we'd go into hotels and they'd say, yeah, this is great, but that picture on the wall's too interesting. You know what I mean? They just wanted, they wanted boring kind of middle America. They wanted to exaggerate, you know.
And they say the camera movement went to zip. I mean,
except for I remember on the first day we'd said, right, no dolly tracks, no camera moves. First day, I think we did a 60-foot tracking shot. Yes. But it wasn't like, you know, on Barton Fink or Headsucker, it wasn't like whoosh into an eye or something. It was much more sort of, you hardly know it's happening. It's just a much more naturalistic effect, you know. But I think it didn't matter that we were breaking our rule. It's the very fact that we thought about the film in those terms that kept us, you know, the film did have a unity. It did have a naturalistic look, and it was because we had, you know,
thought it through,
really. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter what tools you use as long as the end is in your mind, you know, the final look.
Yeah, and the horror, of course, of Fargo was, these lunatic killers that got their assignment and then just didn't know when to stop. I mean, they just kept killing until it was, you know, to the end, huh?
Yeah. I think there was an awkward balance that they brought off really well between it being macabre and being funny. And, you know, it's kind of, I think the film works as well as anything they've done because they brought that off so well at the end when Frances, the policewoman's saying, you know, she doesn't understand it. Why did you do it? And the guy sitting in the back seat, and all this horror's gone on. So really, in a film that is so black and funny, and it's a really touching moment, you know. It really actually, I think.
Well, they were telling Francis's story, and then they were telling this this criminal story at the same time, and the way they intertwined them. You know, she was always the stable one, you know, and she'd come home from this, you know, her job and just be talking small talk with her husband. I mean, it was you know, that was part of the setup, that made her into so sympathetic and them so unsympathetic. Yeah, but. The Coen brothers, they you know, Hudsucker was you know, of course, was a big story about invention and buildings and people, you know, going up the corporate ladder and all that. That was kind of, so that was a whole different, you know, look, of course, and feel to it. But that also quirky, you know, kind of a show. But Lubinsky, now that was now a character-driven. Piece.
Yeah, that was something they'd written a long time ago when they actually lived in Hollywood. I think they lived here for a year or two when they were first starting to write, you know, and it was based on characters they had met in Hollywood, you know. In fact, the guy Jeff plays, the dude, the guy that the dude was based on is a film producer, and he came and visit the set quite a number of times.
So the real Lubinsky was there.
The real guy, yeah. Yeah, it's quite funny.
Was there a particular palette that you all agreed upon for these movies? I mean,
not on Lebowski so much. I mean, on Hudsucker, yeah. I mean, we'd done the storyboards, and then we'd gone through the sets. We talked about the camera style we wanted, and in terms of palette and the color, it was a very late discussion where we said, well, we're making this film that is, you know, kind of a parody of a period film, you know, a Kukor movie or whatever, but we didn't want it to look like, we didn't want it hard light, we didn't want it, you know, it wasn't going to be black and white, we didn't want it, you know, to be stylized to that extent. So we very consciously went against that and lit it again in a big soft way, you know. It was sort of just, I don't know why we did, just so it wouldn't become too much of a parody, you know, to sort of give it some reality. You know, I think there was a danger the film could have gone way over the top and been totally inaccessible. You know what I mean? You know, if you stylize too much, it's you know, can be too much.
Well, all the effort doesn't get noticed. I mean, it just kind of becomes that's what the movie's about rather than the play.
Yeah, that's right. It becomes all about style and not about the content and the characters. And I think that's right. I think that's what drew us back at that point, to light it in a more naturalistic way. You know, even though the camera was doing these kind of weird, you know, unrealistic things. You know, guys falling out windows and the camera falling with them and all that. But just the look of it and the colours of it were more naturalistic, I suppose. And that was very deliberate.
You touched on Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption, which you said was the original title.
Original title, yeah. Shawshank Redemption, yeah.
And now that was a. Well, first off, working with Tim must have been terrific.
Yeah, well, I'd just come off Hudsucker, so there was a second film with him, you know, so we knew each other pretty well. Yeah, by then. Yeah.
But this was such a bleak prison movie, you know, that
yeah, I mean, the challenge was that exactly you're for 2 hours or however long it ended up, you know, you're in this basically this one large bleak unrelenting set, you know, and to make that interesting, but again not make it interesting and destroy the fact that to be in those places, for that to be in jail is kind of unrelenting and bland. You know, it's a sort of balance, isn't it? You know, so I mean, I was kind of pleased with that. I think the film has a unity to it. You know, the sort of the look of it, the color of it, sort of just it holds together. I think quite well. You know, and the camera moves. The camera moves. I mean, we built in a lot. We tried not to do it like talking heads, obviously, but I think it works quite well. It's not distracting. I think it helps tell the story, but I don't think it.
What were you using cranes? Were you using Steadicam?
Yeah, we used a bit everything on that. I mean, it opens up the film, the jail opens with after the title sequence opens with a Westcam helicopter shot, you know, that goes all the way over the prison and stuff, which I think is truly brilliant piece of operating that they did on that. And then inside we went everything from Steadicam shots to giraffe crane shots to aero crane shots to shots on skateboard dollies, because when we were in a real jail cell, the only way we could track was just put a skateboard dolly down on a bit of pipe. You know, so you get back to all the sort of little tricks of low budget filmmaking and high end filmmaking, you know,
at the same
they all
time
come together. We used this one shot where the warden's holding Tim's character over the roof to threaten him, pushing him off. I mean, we used CGI to get rid of the wires that were holding, you know, the safety wires and stuff. And we had a giraffe crane on the roof with a remote head to get the feel of the drop. You know, I don't know if you remember, the camera starts up high above them and ends up dropping down and ends up on an over the shoulder that tracks around from one character to another. It's quite an elaborate sort of shot, and yeah, I mean, so you know, you lose all the techniques in there, but hopefully they didn't distract from the story. I mean, I hate it when the techniques start taking over, you know. I mean, even in Joel and Ethan's films, the techniques are really kind of sometimes in your face, but I think they fit in with the style and the story, you know, and they're not just technique for its own sake, you know, and that's what I hate. I think it's too much of it. I think there's too much technology and people, you know, just doing flashy shots that have got nothing to do with the film and nothing to do with the style and the coherence of the film, you know. That's my big thing.
How do you relate to actors? I mean, we talked about Susan Sarandon. Dead Men Walking is the one that was the one that she was in.
Yeah.
And of course, working with Tim also. I mean, don't they have a acting theater that they work out of? And
yeah, Tim had a theater. I think he's just recently he's left it. I think just recently, but. I mean, they're both great to work with. I've just done another film with Susan just now called Anywhere But Here, which just finished 2 days ago. I mean, she's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Not only a great actress, she's just a great person, you know. It's just the joy, you know, when you're working with people like that. And Tim too. I mean, they're just great people.
Well, it brings out the best in your work too, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, you can all do, I think, you know, you all mutually help each other, really. You know, I mean, that's the trick. If everybody's working towards the same end, you know, hopefully I help Susan's performance, Susan helps my photography, you know, if we all understand what we're trying to achieve, you know.
Because they both seem to be very aware of, you know, how to make the shot work.
I mean,
as some people aren't, unfortunately.
Yeah, and also very trusting. I mean, by the time I did Dead Man Walking, obviously I'd done, you know, 2 pictures with Tim as an actor. So, you know, he was really trusting of me as his cinematographer, you know. So
he directed that one.
Yeah, he directed that. So it was great. It was a great experience, you know.
And another prison movie, but a different prison.
Well, again, I was nervous about doing that because I'd just done one prison movie, and we discussed it, and Tim said, you know, he wanted a totally different look. And what he was trying to do with the film was totally different. He was making a film about capital punishment, and he's very anti-capital punishment, but he didn't want to preach. And so it was I thought it was an incredibly balanced look. But in the end, I don't think any rational person could look at the film and not think, hey, there's something wrong about us, an eye for an eye. There's something wrong about that. You know, not say you come out desperately against it, but the film draws you to think about it and question it, and you know, that whole morality of the issue, which I think is good. I mean, that's what hopefully films do, make people think.
And then we have here Courage Under Fire, which was of course about the war in Kuwait.
It was based on a true incident in the Gulf War, where in this tank battle some tanks were blown up by friendly fire because nobody knew who was who, you know. And that incident and another more fictional incident where a helicopter is downed behind the lines. Yeah. So again, that was an interesting film.
Well, that was a big big movie making again. It goes.
That was big, yes, but also it was still about basically about two characters. I mean, really focused on the one character, Denzel Washington, who had been the guy that had killed his best friend in this tank battle, and he was now investigating this incident, investigating whether this helicopter pilot who had been killed in this battle deserved to get a Medal of Honor. And investigating in a kind of Rashomon style, he finds there's different stories coming out of this same incident. So he's looking to find the truth, and in doing so, he learns to live with, what he'd done in the war, live with his own, live with his own demons.
Well, really. They kept flashing back to the helicopter sequences, and it was different each time. I mean, was this
right?
Was it also filmatically different? The approach to it.
You mean because it was different people's versions
yes.
of the same story? Well, we didn't. I can't remember now. We talked about doing them differently, and then we said no, because you want to let the audience. You don't want to let the audience know which is true and which is not.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically left them all with the same feel, but they all got a different feel than the rest of the film, because I ended up. What did I do on that? Shot on 93, and we overexposed 3.5 stops, everything.
For the heat?
And well, what I was trying to do is get a kind of slightly desaturated, muted look, but a hot look. And we were shooting in El Paso, and it was the middle of winter, and it didn't look like, the desert really.
Mm-hmm.
So I overexposed the whole thing like 3.5 stops, and then Paul developed 1 stop.
Mm-hmm.
And this was interesting. It tended to desaturate. I was still printing at really, really high lights because it's still 2.5 stops overexposed. But it gave it a very kind of creamy, hot look. It was kind of interesting. So,
and each time you came back to the story, it would be from a different character's point of view. So it was like the camera was again a character, but it was a character and the creation. I mean, that was very interesting.
We every time as you say, you come back a different story, so that character is then the focus of the camera, the position of the camera. Obviously you're doing it from that character's point of view. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. All your movies have such different textures to them. I mean, that's why I was trying to get for our viewers here, just what sort of procedures you go through. Do you since you talked about Lebowski and Fargo being so storyboarded out, is that pretty much what happens these days? A lot of pre-production.
Only really with Joel and Ethan. I haven't worked with. I've not worked with anybody else that totally storyboards. You'll have a kind of fairly clear idea of how the scenes are going to work out. Like on Kundun with Marty, for instance. I mean, he had a very clear idea of how he wanted the scenes to feel, whether a scene would play in one long fluid camera move, whether it would play in one wide static shot, or whether it would play in more conventional close-up coverage, and cuts. I mean, he had an idea of the mood of each scene, but it wasn't storyboarded. I mean, he had diagrams and sometimes descriptions, but it wasn't really locked down because, you try and do these things, but a lot of it depends on the set, the physical restrictions of the set or the location, and also what the actors kind of want to do, so things change,
I have not seen Kundun, but Dick, you have.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that for a second? You said it was one of the most remarkable movies you've seen photographed.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was incredible. One of the questions I would like to ask about it is the camera seemed to move a lot in a kind of an organic way in the movie, telling the story.
Right.
That was really kind of unique, among the movies that I saw last year, especially the movies that were nominated for Academy Awards, and it was nominated for an Academy Do you want to comment on that, or can you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean that's part of Marty's style, isn't it? I mean he's incredible at moving the camera, and I like to move the camera as well. So I think the two of us together really started to move it around. A lot of those moves were kind of thought about and marked out diagrammatically before we got to the set, and a lot of them came out of the set and the way the Tibetans wanted to play the scene, So it was a combination. It was a combination of, prep and spontaneity, and it was also a combination of Marty's ideas and my ideas. And I say we both really felt the camera would move as much as possible in that film. Technically, I mean, again, we used sort of every trick in the book, really. Everything from handheld, Steadicam, giraffe crane, aero crane, always with a remote head. And then we even had an Aquila crane out there for a couple of days in Morocco. There's two shots. There's one shot. I say I don't use zooms once, but there's one shot in Kundun which I'm quite kind of proud of, really. It's a shot which starts on the young Dalai Lama, and it starts on his eyes, and the camera pulls back from him and then starts craning up, and here's a dream sequence, and he's surrounded by a sea of dead monks. And we did this on a zoom because we couldn't track the Aquila, so it starts slowly zooming back as the Aquila's rising, and then the camera just zooms back to I think it was at 18 to 100, so it's zooming back to like an 18 mil when it's up to its like 70 foot when it's full height, and we had like 200 or 300 extras, 200 300 monks to put in the shot, but they wouldn't fill the frame when we got up, and Marty wanted to go further anyway. So the shot ends up as a combination of all, CGI and live action and say a zoom and an Aquila and a remote head and the whole bit. It's like it's all the techniques put in there, really, which was quite. I mean, it was quite.
Oh, it's a dramatic shot.
Yeah, it works.
It just grabs you.
Yeah, and there was one other shot we used it for the same day. We could only really afford the Aquila for a day, and there's a shot where the Chinese planes are coming over, strafing the population, and it starts on a high shot of these figures running, and the camera sort of swoops down towards the people, and then at the last moment it just zips back up into the sky, and you see the plane coming over. And that was again on Aquila, and the guys as fast as they could let it fall. It must have missed these guys' heads, the extras' heads by about 6 inches. I think it was an amazing piece of work. They did a pretty good job. And again, the plane was CGI'd in the end. And that was a shot Marty and I had sort of thought out well before, obviously, to so we could accommodate what the guys wanted for the CGI work and stuff, and the idea of the move. But
so they CGI'd the mountains, the Himalayas.
Oh no. Not in that, but in there's one scene. There's the funeral scene up in the mountains with the vultures. There's a wide shot there. They CGI'd some snowy mountains in the background. The wide shots of the Patala Palace. The Patalas put in CGI because there's no way we could build that. And a couple of shots like that. There's a couple of there's a night shot where the Dalai Lama's escaping to India across the river, and the background mountains and the star fields added. So there's quite a few places where we use CGI.
Were you involved in the CGI? In the elements,
Yeah, quite a bit. I went out and sort of, I made myself quite involved in it because, CGI is a great tool, but if it doesn't fit in with the look of the whole film, then you can be sunk by one shot. Suddenly one shot brings you out of a film, and that's it.
Right.
It's the same in ordinary photography. If you really blow just a single shot, and the audience is suddenly taken out of the movie. Well, there you go. You lost them. You lost the audience. You know, it's. I think photography's not about creating beautiful shots. It's about creating a film that sustains the feel all the way through without losing the audience. Yeah, I mean that's the trick. And I think if somebody says, "Oh, well, that was a really great movie," that's what I want to hear. Not, "Oh, wasn't that a brilliant shot?" or "Wasn't that brilliant?" A brilliant camera move or brilliant photography. Because then I think really it's taking the audience out of the film. They've not really seen the film as a whole piece. That's what I hope.
Right. Can you? I have heard, and I think a number of our members have heard that generally you don't make use of an operator on a movie. Can you comment on that?
Well, if you don't mind me commenting,
No.
I kind of make use of an operator, but I do operate. Yeah, It's I've had this discussion with so many people. It's really hard. I come out of documentaries. I come out of that way of working. I don't think I'm a great lighting cameraman. I actually think I'm quite a good operator, and that's what I see. To me, it's the framing and the way the camera moves. And I find it really, really hard to work the way I work without actually being on the camera. It's as simple as that. I know it's an issue, and I can't deny it. It's a problem.
Well, getting back to the filmography, and thank you for that, Dick. I saw you on the set of, what would we call it, martial law at the time?
Martial law, now it's called The Siege.
The Siege, yeah. And you were, how did that work out? The Siege, did you enjoy the project?
Yeah, it was a tough project, really.
Was it?
New York, and big scenes in New York. It was kind of in the winter. It was a kind of difficult shoot. It was difficult because it was one of those films where I guess I was unlucky. I had an idea of the way I wanted it to look, or we wanted it to look, which was kind of grey and rainy New York, And of course, we never had a grey day. We had bright blue skies and blinding sun, and we didn't have a schedule that could accommodate. We had to shoot, and that was kind of tough to deal with because if I'd have been lucky, I'd have got grey, rainy days, but I wasn't. Sometimes you get lucky.
Well, I saw you on the stages at Fox. And that was so that was the stage work.
Yeah, we did quite a bit back here. Yeah, it was cheaper to come back here and do our stage work here. And we did some big night locations in LA as well. Yeah.
So that was a cop movie.
A what?
A police
cop movie? Well, it's a terrorist movie, really.
Okay.
I mean, hopefully it's a discussion about what the hell do we do if terrorism escalates in the United States, and it may well.
It certainly is time.
How do we deal with it?
Yeah.
And hopefully the film will stimulate that discussion, because do you bring in the army, and do you curtail citizens' rights in order to suppress and find the terrorists? And how do we treat the Arab community? I mean, when the Oklahoma bomb went off, everybody said it's the Arabs, and suddenly there was Arab bashing. I mean, it happened.
Yeah.
And that's really sad, because then they found it was an American that did it. I mean, a
homegrown terrorist.
A homegrown terrorist. I mean, and then you say, well, the Arabs that live in Brooklyn, I mean, they're Americans too.
Sure.
So how can we take away their rights? And in the film, the army comes into Brooklyn, it rounds up the Arabs of a certain age, and it interns them in a stadium, and it's kind of a memory of the Second World War and the Japanese being interned and stuff. And it's like, will it happen again? And how do you deal with it? And I think, to me, the final line of the film is if the terrorists force us into curtailing people's democratic rights, then they've won. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter how many people they kill, what they blow up. If they manage to turn back democracy in this country, they've won. and that's what they're trying to do. So I mean, hopefully the film has that to say, even though it is a cop movie, and it's like, will they get the terrorists before the terrorists? Blah blah. You know, it's obviously it's a Hollywood film. It's you know, you're trying to entertain an audience, but hopefully it has, as Courage Under Fire had. Hopefully it has a more resonant kind of content somewhere.
And then the last one we have on here is Anywhere But Here, and that's a random movie
just
that you just finished?
that 2 days ago. Yeah.
And is that more of a what sort of movie is that?
That's a very much a character study about a mother and a daughter who the mother decides she's going to go and live. They're from Wisconsin, and they decide they're going to move to Hollywood, and her daughter's going to be a film star, and it's about the daughter doesn't really want to move to Hollywood. And, you know, it's just about their relationship basically. So
it's Anywhere But Here, Anywhere But Hollywood.
Anywhere but Beverly Hills. Yeah.
Beverly Hills.
But it's interesting. It's a nice character study. It's funny, and it's Susan Sarandon and Natalie Portman, and they're just brilliant together. It's just great to watch. Great acting, and you know, characters coming alive. Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about your technique changing from documentary through the Hollywood look, and we're getting close towards the end of our discussion here, but could you talk about what that path has brought you to? I mean, everyone praises your lighting now. I mean, I know you just made a statement that you see yourself as more of a camera operator than a lighting
I
camera
do.
operator.
I mean, I really do. I mean that.
Mm-hmm.
I really mean that. I think photography or cinematography is about how the camera reflects the story. I don't think the lighting is the most important part of it. You know, I especially these days. I mean, I think the filmmaking has changed. I don't think we're making the magnificent Andersons anymore. I wish we were, but we're not. You know.
Well, your movies approach
Touch of Evil.
I mean,
you know,
please, they really do.
Well, I'm flattered you think so, but I kind of think it's stylistically different. You know, I say we talked about Doctor Strangelove earlier, or any of these great black and white, Touch of Evil. I mean, those days have gone. It's changing scene. You know.
As I say though, you've got a reputation, deservedly so, to being one of the best lighting directors. I mean, the director of photography is more of a crew chief. You know, keeps everything going. Keeps the camera operating position is part of the crew. I mean, as well as the camera assistants, and the director of photography is in charge of so much more. I mean, they're in charge of the look, the making sure that the period looks correct, the sets are correct, the makeup's correct. I mean, don't you feel that all these responsibilities are difficult to do as you're operating the camera? I mean,
if I did, I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found it a problem. I mean, I'm very hands-on. You know, you can ask my gaffer. I mean, I'd kind of like have a lot of energy, and I'm very I'm busy around the set, and I work with a very tight crew. I mean, not always the same people, but quite often the same people.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's got to the extent that we don't need to communicate that much. We know what we're doing. You know, and so I mean, that's what makes it easier. You know, just because the people I work with. You know.
Well, this has been a terrific interview. Any final comments on your behalf? I've been talking to you and asking the questions. Any message you'd like to?
No, I think that I was wanting to say, because you know, I noticed. I'm sure a number of people will be watching this, thinking, how can they start? How can they get to do this job? And I got to say, a lot of it is luck. I mean, I've certainly been very, very lucky getting where I am now. I mean, I know a number of people in England it could have happened to. Just as easy, just as talented or whatever, just as much as ability, if not more than me. And a lot of it's luck, but it's also being committed to doing it. It's about taking the opportunities, and about actually, dedicating yourself to it, especially when you're starting. You know, I mean, I spent years and years learning my craft and in a way paying my dues, doing documentaries, doing films that are, risky films and taking risks, photographically and actually, sometimes physically in different situations, in order to become part of the industry, to do this job. And I think if anybody has the commitment and the ability, there's no reason they can't get in the industry now. It's not like it was years ago. It's not handed down generation to generation. There's so many possibilities. The industry is opening up so much. There's no reason for anybody out there to think, I can't possibly do that, which is what I thought when I was a kid.
Well, you've certainly done well with it, and then it's taking advantage of those lucky breaks too, making it work for you.
Yeah, you've got to see them and take them when they're there. They don't come a lot, but when they're there, you've got to take them.
Well, it's been our lucky break talking to you.
Thank you very much.
So
Pleasure.
With that, we'll just fade out, and we'll catch you on the next project, all right?
Thank you very much.